Because we're just lucky that you haven't killed someone in our community 9 times over, being given opportunities. I just can't do it. Going to sentence you to a term of 18 years in the Institutional Division of the Texas Department of Corrections. You will receive credit on that sentence for any time.
You just don't. And I'm asking you, please do not send me back to prison. I want to.
A woman with 10 DWIs, a judge struggling with an impossible decision, a community's safety hanging in the balance. What you just witnessed represents years of failed chances, broken promises, and a system pushed to its breaking point. This isn't just about drunk driving. This is about Catherine Welch, who's been given more opportunities than 99% of repeat offenders ever receive. 3 trips to prison, multiple probation violations, parole revocations, and now she's back, asking for one more chance. The defense says she's changed. The prosecutor can barely recommend prison but knows the risks. The judge, he's about to make a decision that will haunt him, because when someone has driven drunk 10 times and gotten caught, the question isn't just about justice anymore. It's about whether society can survive unlimited second chances. The brutal truth you're about to hear will make you question everything you think you know about forgiveness, accountability, and whether some people truly can change.
I recognize this is a unique case and a unique ask that we're making here. This is not something small that we're asking for. I have sort of personally taken Catherine on over the last 3+ years, I guess almost 4 years, as a project for me, if that makes any sense. And what I mean by that is I really wanted to put to the test, could this person do everything that I asked her to do to at least get her an opportunity to be here in front of you asking what we're asking for? She exceeded my expectations by doing the 90-day inpatient rehabilitation. And while she was there, she started to explore with her counselors and her therapists there some of the underlying issues that went beyond just physical addiction, but actually had to do with her mental health and some of the things that she's experienced in her life. I'm not going to detail them on the record, but the court is aware of what those things are. Incredibly traumatic events that I think she had repressed and had never really addressed and explored. And so those counselors recommended not just aftercare, but a specific outpatient program to address some of the trauma issues that she's had. She went and checked into that program, stayed for basically a year.
Wait, stop right there. Did you catch the contradiction in the defense strategy? They're calling this a unique case and asking for something extremely rare. But here's what they're not saying. There's nothing unique about a repeat DWI offender asking for probation. Listen carefully to how the defense frames this. She exceeded my expectations. But what were those expectations? That someone with 9 DWIs might actually complete treatment? That's not exceeding expectations. That's basic human decency. Notice the language pattern here. The defense keeps saying she did everything we asked her to do. But here's the forbidden knowledge. The reason they had to ask her to do these things is because she failed to do them voluntarily for decades. The defense mentions traumatic events she had repressed. Real trauma deserves real treatment. But here's the transcript detective work nobody's talking about. If trauma was the driving force behind her behavior, why didn't any of her previous 3 prison sentences include trauma treatment? Here's what 99% of people missed in that speech. The defense admits she's been clean for 3+ years, but that timeline starts after her arrest on this charge. So she got sober because she got caught, not because she wanted to change? That's not rehabilitation, that's fear. And fear-based sobriety has a track record that's about to become very relevant.
And again, did everything we asked her to do. When I told her to go get her own drug patch, I told her to go get her own interlock device. She did all of that. Those records should be attached to the memo. She was successful, has been following the rules, doing everything we've asked her to do, had been going to AA, had gotten a counselor, actually reached out and befriended the director of the Dream Center to try to figure out what she can do next to sort of commit herself to her sobriety and to fixing the mental health issues that I think stem from the challenges that she faced as a young person. Sometimes it's easy to look at one side of the ledger, the rap sheet or the criminal history, and think that defines this person. What I have been fortunate enough to do is to really dig down and get to understand her as a human, and see that all the progress she's made, all the effort she's made, and see what she's done well and all of the problems that she's been addressing well. She's obviously very anxious about this day, but we've been looking forward to this day as well, to be able to present that. And I want to go down on the bottom of page 2, address what I was talking about in the CSI. So that I'm not saying that this wasn't the words that came out of her mouth, but when she was asked by one of the examiners in the probation report, she felt she needed treatment. She said she didn't feel like she needed treatment. She wasn't opposed either. I want to clarify what we mean by that. And I say this here, but what she would say, I think, is she did 90 days of detox rehab related treatment, has continued.
Here's the psychological reality behind addiction and repeat offenses that most people don't understand. Catherine mentions bipolar disorder, PTSD, and childhood trauma. These are real, serious conditions that absolutely contribute to addiction cycles. But here's the forbidden knowledge about repeat DWI offenders. Mental health treatment and sobriety aren't the same thing. You can address trauma, get on medication, complete intensive therapy, and still make the choice to drink and drive again. Notice how she structures her plea. Everything becomes about her trauma, her treatment, her progress. But listen to what's missing. Any acknowledgement of the 10 times she put innocent people at risk. The families she could have destroyed. The children who could have lost parents. This is called therapeutic deflection, using legitimate mental health struggles to avoid accountability for criminal choices. Her trauma is real. Her bipolar disorder is real. Her PTSD is real. But so are the 10 times she chose to get behind the wheel while intoxicated. Here's what addiction psychology teaches us. Lasting change requires both treating the underlying issues and accepting full responsibility for the harm caused. When someone focuses only on their pain without acknowledging the pain they've caused others, that's a red flag. The judge is about to demonstrate why the criminal justice system can't operate on therapy principles alone, because compassion without accountability isn't justice, it's enabling.
Judge, I don't envy the position that the court is in this morning. I do take very seriously the comments of Mr. Gertz. I take him at his word for that, and I hope that all of those things are true. It's difficult for me as a representative of Jefferson County and the state and the citizens that are on the roads every day to stand up and say I agree with probation, but I don't disagree with the things that Mr. Gertz has said and the information that is in his sentencing memo. To play that other side of the coin, does it suggest that she received the benefit of the doubt already by me waiving the habitual status that she could have been facing based on her number of priors? Does it seem in good conscience that I could say I ignore all of those priors? Absolutely not. But obviously we have seen that her multiple trips to the penitentiary have resulted in no change in behavior until hopefully now in these last 3 years. And I do sympathize with Ms. Welch as an individual. Again, it's hard for me as a district attorney, assistant district attorney, to say that I concur with the punishment being probation, but I don't, again, disagree with the comments that Mr. Gertz has. We've had multiple conversations about this case. I know he's worked very diligently at it. I don't really know, Judge, and that's why it's before you, that putting her in prison for 20 years and her getting out in 2 versus an extensive probation period where she could continue the recovery she's been doing is a better option. But again, I don't I don't know what is in the best interest of public safety. Unfortunately, none of us do. So
This is where the case gets morally complex. The prosecutor just admitted something that 99% of district attorneys would never say in open court. It's hard for me to say I agree with probation, but I don't disagree with what the defense has presented. Think about that position. As a prosecutor, your job is to protect the community, but as a human being, you're watching someone who might genuinely be trying to change. How do you balance those competing values? Here's the moral dilemma that's tearing this courtroom apart. If genuine rehabilitation is possible, doesn't everyone deserve that chance? But if it's the 10th chance, at what point does hope become naivety? The prosecutor mentions that Catherine could have faced 25 to life as a habitual offender, but they waived that enhancement. She's already received mercy. The question is whether mercy has limits. Here's what makes this case so haunting. Both sides might be right. The defense might be correct that she's genuinely changed. The prosecutor might be correct that public safety requires incarceration. The judge might be right that 10 DWIs is simply too many chances. This isn't about good versus evil. This is about competing values. Rehabilitation versus public safety, compassion versus accountability, hope versus experience. And somebody has to make an impossible decision that will affect real lives.
Your Honor, I just want to say that the past was fueled by drugs and alcohol. I take complete responsibility for that. I did not know from very young when things happened in my life that it could have been, some of it could have been treated and stopped earlier if I had gotten help for my mental health. That, after I received this DWI, that helped me get myself to a place that I could go into a treatment program and deal with some of those past traumas. In the past, I didn't. I medicated and drank to just forget about the pain, just numb myself out. I didn't know how else to deal with that until when I got on my mental health meds, and I have bipolar, I have PTSD, and my mind back then was very chaotic. And I just want to say, after I had my mental health meds, I was able to go through treatment at Santa Maria in Houston, and that place really saved my life. I did extensive 90-day treatment with trauma counselors. It was a trauma-informed community there. And also, when I completed that, I worked an outpatient program, but I still lived on their facility. I went to the sex trafficking and recovery program, and I was in that for about 8 months, where I got the state paid for the counseling for trauma still. And I just worked really hard in that. I got a job while I was in there. And then once that program was over, I moved to a sober living facility in Oxford House in Spring, and I worked there until I felt like I was strong enough to come home and do what I needed to do. And I was in the complete program for right out of a year. And I'm sorry, I'm very nervous today, and I know that my past record is, like Ryan said, atrocious. But you know, the things that I had to deal with within myself from when I was a little girl, those are things that you don't go to prison, even in their programs there, that you don't talk about. It's just, you just don't. And I'm asking you, please do not send me back to prison. I want to move forward. I have moved forward in my life, and this year that I've been in jail has given me more time to think and know that I am definitely headed in the right direction. I have a sponsor. I attend AA at home. I had moved on with my life as far as I could with my sobriety. I mean, I knew this charge was out there. And I think I made some really good choices with my mid-county AA friends. They've helped me a lot, and I am open to anything. I will abide by all the rules and do anything that's asked of me. And I think, I know now that I'm responsible and capable of taking care of my business and my life.
The judge is about to deliver a sentence that will echo through this community for years. But first, listen to what he's really saying. "This is the worst part of my job" isn't just a throwaway line. This judge is genuinely struggling with a decision that has no perfect answer. "We're just lucky you haven't killed someone 9 times over." Let that sink in. 9 separate occasions where Catherine Welch could have ended innocent lives. 9 times the community rolled the dice and won. But how long can luck last? Here's the mathematical reality. Every repeat DWI offender who gets released will either prove the system's faith was justified or they'll prove it was deadly. There's no middle ground. Either Catherine stays sober forever or someone dies. The judge knows this. He can see Catherine's genuine remorse, her treatment records, her family support, but he can also see the pattern. Prison, release, reoffend, repeat. 3 times this cycle is played out. Everything hangs on this moment. Catherine's future, her family's stability, the community's safety, the judge's conscience. In a few seconds, 18 years of someone's life will be decided, and the brutal truth he's about to deliver will show why being a judge in cases like this requires a kind of moral courage that most of us will never understand.
It's not your 5th. It's not your 8th. It's the 10th. And while I understand the trauma that you went through, that you've been to safe P 3 times. You've been given opportunities on probation where they were revoked. You've had opportunities while you were on parole to do what you have done now. And while I appreciate what you've done, and I think that's great, and my goal isn't to, to stop any improvement, but I can't, in my opinion, in good faith, go home tonight, look myself in the mirror and say I gave somebody on their 10th DWI that your last sentence was for 15 years in prison. The one before that was for 10. The one before that, you've gone to another 10 year, back in 09. I mean, this goes back to the 90s. You got a 10-year sentence in 2011. While you're on parole for that one, you get another one, so they give you 15 years, and you get out and you're on parole and you do it again. The fact is, we're just lucky that you haven't killed someone in our community 9 times over, being given opportunities. I just can't do it. I'm going to find that you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily. I'm going to find and your plea of true to the prior offense. I'm going to find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of driving while intoxicated.
18 years. For a woman who completed intensive treatment, maintained sobriety, and showed genuine remorse, was justice served, or did the system fail both Catherine and the community? Here's the debate that's going to divide you. Team Rehabilitation says Catherine proved she could change and deserved probation with intensive supervision. Team Public Safety says 10 DWIs is 10 too many chances, and only incarceration protects innocent lives. But here's what everyone can agree on. This case exposes the fundamental flaw in how we handle repeat offenders. Catherine fell through the cracks for decades because the system treated symptoms instead of causes. By the time she got real treatment, she had already proven herself to be an unacceptable risk. The judge's final words reveal the real tragedy. I take no pleasure in this. He's sending someone to prison who might actually be rehabilitated. rehabilitated, but he's also protecting a community from someone who has proven 10 times over that she can't be trusted with that freedom. The question that will haunt you: in a perfect system, Catherine would have gotten trauma treatment after her first DWI. But we don't live in a perfect system. We live in one where judges have to make impossible choices with imperfect information. Subscribe, because tomorrow's case will show what happens when a judge chooses mercy over safety. The results will shock you, and the victim impact will break your heart.